All right. Hello and welcome to another stream of M2ATL's Beam Stream broadcast. I'm Leonard, and alongside me is Unit 1218. We got Bliku, we got Mo, we've got Cap, we've got Darius. So thank you guys all who are tuning in now and who will tune in for in the future, actually. And for the new viewers, we do this pretty much bi-weekly, and we cover and discuss MCU topics. So today we're going to be discussing episodes 4 and 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And let's go ahead and start off with our recap of episode 4 done by Mo.
Hey there, everybody. How is everybody doing? A good episode, actually, just as all of our episodes. Spoiler warnings for both episodes 4 and 5. If you haven't watched those episodes, prepare to be spoiled. So just a quick 10-cent recap. So we have actually at the beginning of the episode, we start off with a flashback to Wakanda, where A.O. is helping Bucky deprogram from his Winter Soldier programming. He's hesitant. He's actually he doesn't think it's going to work. But it looks like this is basically the final step to his deprogramming. She reads off the sequence of words to try to see if it triggers him. It doesn't, and she finally announces that he's free, which is a huge relief for him, as you can see in his face. Actually, just Emmy worthy acting right there. I just want to put it out there. Then we cut to where we left off in the last episode, where AO is coming to Bucky to basically ask, hey, you broke him out, you broke Zemo out. Why did you do that? We've come for him. And he explains, he's like, listen, he's just a means to an end. It's just for us to be able to go ahead and try to get Carly and the Flag Smashers, and make sure actually that we can go ahead and actually catch them. So he's a means to an end. We need him. She gives him an 8-hour window. She's just like, listen, 8 hours. After 8 hours, we're coming to get him. Bucky comes back, recircles back with Sam. And he basically gives them the timetable. He says, listen, we've got a timetable. The Wakandans are here. They're here for Zemo. We got to go ahead and move. And so Sam and Bucky, Buxom, go ahead and actually set in motion to go out to try to see if they can get some information on Danya's funeral, because they already suspect, actually, hey, Carly's probably gonna be out there. Let's see if we can get some information from at least the people at the refugee location and see if we can go ahead and try to get some information so we can try to talk to Carly, because Sam is still in the mindset of, hey, we've got to talk to her, we got to talk her down. I think there's a possibility we could reason with her. So they go out there. Unfortunately, Sam has zero luck. They basically stonewall him. They're like, nope, we're not telling you anything. Zemo, on the other hand, comes packing Turkish Delight, and basically bribes some of the kids and says, hey, did you guys know Danya? Do you know where the ceremony is? We want to pay our respects. And the kids, one of the kids basically says, yeah, I'll go ahead and actually I'll lead you there. He doesn't, however, he tells the kid, hey, listen, don't trust these two other guys, because he wants to keep that information close to vest, because he already knows the Dora Milaje is already after him. Wakanda's after him. So he needs to use that as leverage. So they get back to their hotel. Buxom tried to get the information from Zemo. Zemo is just like, nope, this is my leverage. You guys are not just going to let me twist in the wind as soon as actually you get the information. And so they go to meet up, with Zemo's contact. And en route there, they find our buddy Diet Cap and Battlestar. And they are like, hey, how did you track us down again? Battlestar and Diet Cap are like, hey, we knew you guys were asking questions around here. How long did you think we wouldn't be able to get that intel? And so Diet Cap is basically taking the stance of like, hey, we got to bring her in. She already blew up this one particular location, killed 3 people. We've got to go ahead and actually that's it. Sam tries to convince him and say, hey, listen, we can go ahead and talk her down. I think we have a better possibility of doing that. That's in my wheelhouse. This is what I did actually with soldiers coming back from the war. This is actually, I think we could still reach her. Diet Cap also takes issue with the fact that they broke Zemo out, which Bucky rightfully corrects him and says, no, he broke himself out. So with that, they go ahead and actually they join forces at least tenuously for a little bit to go ahead and try to go to Danya's memorial, where basically Sam again pleads with Diet Cap, and says, "Hey, listen, I need to talk to her. Give me 10 minutes to talk to her. I think actually I can reach out to her." And at first, he's not with it. But Battlestar Lamar basically says to him, "Hey, listen, no, if we can go down a peaceful route, if we can go down this route, it's probably better that we try it this way." So they give him that ability to go ahead and do that. We go back over to Carly, who has had the sample, the last bits of the super soldier serum that she has hidden actually in a at a funeral. It's not a funeral, at a grave site. She goes there with one of her compatriots. They talk a little bit. The gentleman who's there with her is just like, hey, listen, I used to be a Cap fan. I had a belief that people were better people because of him, that there was a possibility of that, and so how do we make sure that we're not being the bad guy, and that we're not, he tries to basically appeal to her better nature. And she basically looks at it as like, hey, Captain America and his shield, that's a relic of a bygone era. That's actually sort of exemplifies how many people were left out, is that what that shield symbolizes. And in her mind, she's like, that shield should just be destroyed. So we go back to where to Danya's memorial. Cap confronts Carly, starts talking to her, basically, again, appealing to her better nature, says to her, hey, listen, I think actually, I agree with you, what you're doing. I just don't agree with your methods. Meanwhile, in another room, Bucky and Lamar and Diet Cap are basically, waiting for Sam to see if Sam can come through. Diet Cap is getting a little bit, on edge. He wants to go ahead and actually just bring her in. Bucky basically is trying to stop him, but Diet Cap convinces Bucky, and basically is just like, hey, you're just going to let Sam out there with Carly, who's a super soldier, and leave him in danger that way. So they go ahead and actually they barge in just as Sam is reaching out, basically, and it seems like he's about to reach out to Carly. They actually come in and interrupt. She takes it as a betrayal, so she gets away. And in the ensuing scuffle, so does Zemo, because Zemo actually had been handcuffed to a boiler, which everybody knew he would be able to get away from. So he actually escapes. And in the scuffle, then actually, they go after Carly to try to see if they can catch up to her. Zemo, who had gotten away, actually catches up to Carly first, shoots her, and actually has her accidentally drop the soldier serums, which are sitting on top of a table when she was taking cover. He catches the super soldier serums, he picks it up, and for a quick second, it sort of led you to believe that maybe he may take it. He doesn't actually. He crushes every one of the vials, with the exception of one that slips away. She gets away. Diet Cap incapacitates Zemo and finds said additional vial of the super soldier serum. So then Diet Cap and Lamar go their separate ways. Bucky, Sam, and Zemo go their separate ways. Bucky and Sam, or actually Zemo and Sam. Zemo asks Bucky. He says, "Hey, would you have taken the serum if it was offered to you?" And Sam says no, and he's just like, "Well, that's good. That's that's no hesitation." He appeals to him and says, "Hey, this person, Carly, I know you're trying to reach out to her, but really she's taking and adopting basically the ideals of a supremacist, because where does it stop there, where she basically just takes the serum and it's just that's where it goes. Long and short of it is, actually, just to wrap up, we basically have here that we have a second conflict in which unfortunately Battlestar loses his life. uh, you know Diet Cap takes hit the serum, now becoming Cap Zero. Uh, he goes ahead and actually chases after one of the flag smashers and decapitates him in a very public, very gruesome setting, setting the stage and opening up to episode 5. Also, actually, before that, and it's a very important piece of it, that right before that battle, we have another battle with Sam, Bucky, uh, Lamar, Diet Cap, and the Dora Milaje, in which the Dora Milaje hand Cap, Diet Cap, his collective behind. And that particular scene launched so many memes, it's not even funny. But that is the end of the episode. I'm pretty sure I probably missed a couple of things here and there, but that's the recap.
Sure, I'm sure we'll get to a few of those things in our discussion. So let's take it from the top. When we talk about, or we start with, White Wolf, you're free. That whole scene, as you pointed out in your recap, very heavy. And we've been talking about over the last few episodes how much Bucky is carrying, and to see the sheer emotion of being mentally free of those shackles with those command words. I mean, the release, you can see it in his face. You can see the transition from the doubt, the tears of doubt, to the tears of joy. And I mean, this series is full of moving moments, and that's one I definitely will remember for sure. So what you got, Celia? I know there's a few things burning at you that you want to touch on.
I mean, there's a lot going on in that episode. Some of my stuff is petty. Like, why are those children taking candy from strangers, and then they trust that same stranger telling them that someone else is bad? So, like, what are the parenting skills out here? So, I don't know. That was petty. But I don't know. I appreciate the fact that Sam was a good negotiator until Cap Zero ruined everything. It gave us like a different perspective as to him as a person versus him as the Falcon, So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see, what else do I have? I do not like Cap Zero, so I felt very good when he got his ass kicked in that episode. It was delicious. It was like, I need a cigarette afterward, but I don't smoke. Delicious, Let's see what else. The Dora Milaje, they did their thing, as they always do. And I love that, like Mo said, there were a lot of memeable moments in there, including that one line. I think that was from, it was from this episode, where it's like the Dora Milaje have jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje happened to be. And I was like, yes, yep. You tell him. Mic drop on that. I wanted them to take the shield so bad, but I'm glad they didn't. That's all I got right now. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the clear and sparkling star of that scene, that would be the star of that episode, is of course that confrontation between the Doras and when they try to take Zemo, times up, as I call it. Man, the internet was on fire all week. Jason, what do you got? What stuck out to you about that episode there?
I'm a more story-driven guy. I like action, so that opening scene with Bucky and Ayo, and you just see the amount of, because we've only seen a dry. Not saying that Sebastian Stan can't act at all, but we've only seen like a very dry or very stoic look on Bucky's face whenever he's thinking about the past or things that happened. So to see him emotionally fighting and breaking down in that scene in Wakanda, that was just really, really dope to me in general. Just seeing him finally not finally, but overcoming that programming, at least that part of it, that was really dope to me. And I guess seeing how the series is only 6 episodes long, I expected to see a lot more action than story. But I like the fact that we don't see Sam in the Falcon uniform that often. We see him as a man, whether it be a family man, a negotiator, just having sense as a person. It really humanizes a character that we didn't get much of in the MCU, aside from his quippy one-liners or his very few action scenes. We get to see Sam as a man. So, of course, I thought it was dope when Cap gave him the shield at Endgame, but I was wanting to see how they were going to push that narrative forward to be like, this man is capable of being the new Captain America in an America that doesn't want to see Sam or a black man for that matter as Captain America. So I really like that they're really honing down on Sam as a person, as a human being.
Yeah, I agree. Sam is a very practical hero, and we see that on both sides, whether he's Falcon or whether he's Sam, and he's very relatable. And I think that this episode, this series, definitely is doing a good job of defining Sam. And we get after Endgame, there was a lot of conversation about you know why Sam getting the shield, what's going on there, why not Bucky? And I think we're clearly getting the answers to that question. Darius, you want to weigh in here?
Wow. I still think about the end of Endgame, and this journey that Sam Wilson has been on. I mean, you were there with me, the moment that Steve Rogers handed Sam that shield. It's like, feels like it belongs to somebody else. Like, it doesn't. And I was like, yes, he is officially Captain America, but he's not. He's growing into that role. He's fought alongside the rest of the Avengers and really fought very hard. But he has never been Captain America, and watching this journey, seeing him evolve alongside Bucky, it's been so much fun. And then you get the whopper of next episode we'll get to, but man, and that's like the most emotional part of this show. But it's been excellent to see this develop, and the fight with the Dora Milaje, or I don't know how to put it, how I learned not to mansplain or manhandle a Dora Milaje ever. Yeah. That was a can of grade A industrial strength whoop ass right there. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
That was a case. That wasn't a can. That was the whole entire case palette.
And they spilled some on the Bucky, which is kind of messed up during that.
Yeah.
But the thing, it did strike me though, because Walker feels he has jurisdiction over the place, and Io felt she has jurisdiction over the place. And the thing is though, we're not in the U.S. or Wakanda at this point, so it strikes me like, who exactly would have jurisdiction in this particular scene? No matter how we feel about it, but who would actually have that type of jurisdiction in that?
Well, I mean, if we want a technical answer based on what they've been presenting us over the course of these 5 episodes, Cap is acting as part of the GRC, which is global.
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah, that's a very technical answer, and the thing is, I as much of a jerk as John Walker is in this show, there are points where I sort of feel sorry for the guy. He's clearly not supposed to be Captain America. He does not have to.
That doesn't last very long, Darius. It's like just as you start to feel something, boom, he does something else.
Yes, he does.
I think they have layered that character very well, and to Wyatt Russell's credit, I think it's very easy to sort of be like he's a jerk. But if you were comparing apples to apples, it's like, to me, in my head, if you're comparing someone like Hayward from WandaVision and Walker from here, this is two different ways of how you handle a villain and how you handle or an antagonist. Like, I think actually Walker, and especially in the next episode, you do get to see actually some of where the internal workings of it come from. Now, that's not taking away from the fact that, yes, is he somebody that probably has PTSD and has actually some issues? 100%. I was remarking on that actually when I was watching the episode, was that I think that his belief of Captain America and being Captain America stems similar to how a lot of people in the military are sort of instructed and told to be. You're out in on foreign soil, acting on behalf of the United States. They present you as you are the be all end all there, and that's unfortunately, it's a symptom of militarization. It's basically, that's where it comes down to. So I can see that part of John Walker. I love, and I've said this actually when we were talking about WandaVision, I love layered characters to the point where you just don't see that they're just a villain. Like, I know he's a villain. I know that, again, let me not use the word villain.
Yeah.
I know he's an antagonist.
Oh, he's a villain.
I think he's an antagonist, and I think when we jump into the next episode, we really are going to get into that, because there's something actually when he says in his scene at his trial or court martial or whatever, that really speaks to, that resonates. And if you go, actually, a lot of friends of mine that were in the military, it resonated with them. It resonated so hard with them, because it's exactly how we treat our military. It's exactly how we treat it. And actually, there's a couple of really cool scenes actually that I really think speaks to the overall part of this show. One of them was actually the conversation Carly was having with one of the other flag smashers, when he was talking about Captain America, and how in that conversation he basically said, yes, Captain America was good and Captain America was a good for, but he almost like positioned Carly in his own mind to say, hey, you're actually somebody that's akin to that. You're who we need now, because you are you are somebody who at least can embody some of the struggles that many people that perhaps don't understand. And let's be frank and let's be honest, a lot of white people don't understand what struggles are of people of color, people of women, of people from different countries, and a different Captain America or a different captain is needed. America being, whatever the title is. That was an interesting conversation actually, and in rewatching it to prepare for this show, for the podcast, that really stood out for me, especially watching the next episode. And then the other scene was the conversation that John is having with Lamar right after the Dora Milaje basically do. Oh no, actually it was right before. They're actually sitting at this little bar or whatever, and he asks him, and John's response to his medals, when Lamar says, "Oh, but you have all these medals. You always do the right thing, actually, for in the heat of battle." His response was, "But you and I know that when it comes down to it, what we did may have been what we needed to do, but it wasn't right."
Right. And that's another, it kind of circles back to what we mentioned with Darius, technically who has jurisdiction. It's always the technically right answer. when it comes to John Walker, and it's like the conversation is okay. Well, technically, he was hunting down terrorists, right?
Mhm.
Technically this, technically that, but we all know that it's not just black and white, and I think it's defining of this series. We're talking about transitions where we see Carly transition. We she was very relatable, and she of course still has very relatable aspects to her, but her methods are getting more and more extreme, right? And then we see Bucky, he's transitioning. We see what he's gone through. We see the way he's carried, but he's starting to loosen up a little bit, and he's becoming a different version of himself. We see that. We see Sam's transition to being, the showing the world or us, the viewers, why he's the worthy inheritor of that shield. But we get someone with John Walker who he's the same person now that he was when he was introduced. And he's very rigid and it's very technical. And, he's just following orders, right? And so we know, we see that's not the right way to be all the time. You have to have mercy. You have to, have a sense of understanding of the overall big picture when you enter these scenarios, and he clearly doesn't have those.
Mhm.
He acts more like the Winter Soldier than the Winter Soldier. When you think about it, because he's acting just based upon orders. Granted, there's no code words and stuff to make him go into that because that's just his natural MO. And that is really messed up. I felt really bad for Lemar because, yes, I'm going to keep calling that Lemar Hoskins. Because, like, he had a, come to Lemar moment. And it's like, should I take this serum? And he's like, oh, but you always make the right decisions. But then he encourages him to take that serum. I mean, granted, he didn't know that he had it. That says something right there that he didn't even disclose that to his best friend. But then, like, right after that, he makes the most terrible decision ever, takes the serum, and then basically decapitates this guy to death in front of an audience of people. And so it's just like,
From Leonard's death,
yeah, there's just a lot there. It's like, how did you ever feel like you were Captain America? Yes, there will never be another Steve Rogers, but that ain't it. I mean,
yeah, but he also. I still remember when he. How do I put this? I remember the interview he gave when he first was introduced. He was at the high school thing, and he said, "I can only do what
yeah,
I can do. Like I've had this role put on me, but I can't be Steve, but I can go out and do the best job I can." And
hmm
one thing about, I would guess that people who sign up to the military, just in general, they feel that they have to go out, do this job, come back home, and do it to the best of whatever is asked of them. And I think this is basically, these two episodes are basically the biggest proof that the government has completely failed John Walker. They trained him to be a soldier, but Captain America is seen as a superhero, which is more than just a soldier. He's Steve has his diplomacy, hence he would had the door Malachi shown up and Steve was there, he would never spoken down to him. He would say, "Oh, okay, please, let's come down, please." He would just head down and never reached out and put his arm on either, which we all know is the kiss of death. Um, and I don't think anybody, from what I could tell of the government, nobody ever taught him diplomacy or de-escalation. It's action, take it out. And
yeah. Well, that a thing about that is he was just strictly a soldier, right?
Yeah.
Cap had the like, I feel like just his personality was way different.
Mm.
And whereas he knew who he was before the serum, this guy is just, he feels like the soldier part of him is all that he is. At least that's the vibe that I get from it. He doesn't know how to deal with that stuff. And so that's why I say, like, I feel bad for him in a way, but then when he doubles down and does something like twice as bad, it's like all that goes out the window
Hmm.
for me
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, having a conversation, right after with Ashley, my wife, right after the decapitation moment at the end, and you know, I try to look at it a couple of ways, right? We have a soldier carrying out orders, and a lot of people would see it as, well, he was sent out there to hunt down terrorists, and that's exactly what he did.
Hmm.
And it highlights the fact that America in the MCU got really amazingly lucky with Steve Rogers, because if you remember, Steve wasn't the first choice. It was Gilmore Hodge.
Hmm.
And Gilmore Hodge in the MCU has a lot of those same qualities as John Walker. He's that bravado, strong, almost bully type, soldier. Like, I'm not going to back down for a fight, and I'm going to take you out if you get in my way. That sort of guy, and he embodies all of those principles. But we got Steve because Dr. Erskine realized that it takes more than just a good soldier. It takes a good man.
Yeah.
And so that's how we got Steve.
Yeah, but Captain America's not just a title. Like, there's more to it than that. And I feel like they just took the first soldier that had a lot of awards, put him in the suit, and said, here's your new Captain America. But like you're saying, it takes more than that. And I know that they said to hunt down the terrorists, but they didn't say make him judge, jury, and executioner, which is really what he did. You're supposed to turn him in and let, the big wigs deal with all of the punishment or whatever is supposed to happen after that. But he took it upon himself to like be the executioner, and
And
that was really dark. And he tainted the shield. Can we talk about that? Like,
Brutal image that they were showing.
it's an image that actually is really, like, it's a striking image of what of what the Captain America is. But it's funny, because on the one hand, everything that you guys said actually makes sense to me, but I think it's interesting to see actually the evolution of this character in the MCU. I'm not even covering the comic books, just in the MCU.
Mm.
He takes the serum. What's the first thing the government does with him? The government actually doesn't say, hey, let's go ahead and actually send this guy out to be on the front lines. The government says, you know what? No, let's make him into a sort of a party symbol, to be like, hey, rallying, a propaganda piece.
Exactly.
That's what he was. This embodiment of Captain America that we know as the audience, and let's say by extension the people in the universe that it exists, feel, that version of Captain America that John Walker's trying to live up to wasn't the one that the government had put in place. It was the one that Steve Rogers, he's trying to live up to Steve Rogers. He's not trying to live up to Captain America. Captain America is just a propaganda piece. That is what he was when he was created. He's trying to live up to Steve Rogers. So what he isn't is that he isn't Steve Rogers. He's not Steve Rogers for many reasons. So when he actually comes in to the equation and he's given this shield, it's pretty similar to how we treat the military, how we treat the police. There is no training about de-escalation. There is no training of having to talk to somebody when they have issues, whether it's mental illnesses or stuff like that. They're taught to be go go go. You've got to go ahead and actually you're the hammer. You're the blunt instrument of this. And so with John Walker's out, when they chose him to be Captain America, it was looking at just what he looked like on his resume. His resume was he's an exceptional soldier, and to Leonard's point, exactly what they did in the first Avengers movie. I mean, the first Avenger, Captain America. They look at the best soldier who had the best resume and said, "This is the guy that should be actually what we think should represent." Captain America. It wasn't until Steve Rogers embodied that then now America looks at it and it's like, oh yeah, that's what we want. This is just yeah, that's the kind of principles what we have. But let us not forget, during Civil War, the U.S. government did also sort of turn on Captain America as well, and they did also sort of say, yeah, but we don't want you to whatever. So it's a very interesting, and this show is super layered. There's so many analogs for the real world that I don't want. This is not the podcast to get into.
Right.
But man, there's so much there.
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't that a part of it though? Discussing those things. That's why they put these things in the episode, to be a topic of discussion, to bring it up so people will talk about it. I mean, I know like you're trying to keep it like, I don't know, neutral, but that's the point, is it not?
I think it's more like a time constraint because I think all of
That's
us
true.
do this all day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. We could do this all day.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
fair
quote
enough.
somebody. But to your point, and I think also the other reason for me personally is that due to events that recently happened, it's too raw. There's too many things in there in this
Yeah,
episode that are triggers that unfortunately speak to real world stuff.
they
So
do, and that's why they're included.
yeah, no, I would agree. Oh no,
Like
I agree with you
they are
100%.
taking stuff out of real life and then implementing it into this show. So like even if you choose to ignore it in real life, now it's creeping into your media also. So
That's
it's
true.
forcing people to take a look at it.
Just like Star Trek.
Broad
Right.
examination. That's what this is. This is a broad examination.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely. Well, let's make it a point to touch a little bit more on that, especially as we go into episode 5, because there's just a lot of emotion that comes with a particular scene in episode 5 that it's we can't deny it. We can't get around it. So we're certainly going to address it head on. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about. Give episode 4 a review, and let's go ahead and start with Bleaku. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I'd give it an A, solid A. Overall, like the way it was executed was really good. There were a lot of I guess emotions felt, not as many as the next episode, but God, that ending hit kind of hard. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm somewhere between an A and an A minus, I guess.
All right. How about you, Mo?
I'm gonna quote Bucky by say, "Looking strong, John." This was an A episode, and so far, like I said, I think this show is hitting on so many levels and just amazing work that they've done. So A for me.
Jason?
Sorry, I would also give this episode an A. Just seeing the emotional weight of Bucky, seeing John Walker become unhinged, seeing Sam more of a diplomat and being able to talk things out as opposed to wanting to throw fists, showing why he deserves the mantle of Captain America. Yeah, I give episode A as well.
All right, Darius?
Yeah, A to A minus, just simply because the next episode sets an unbelievable standard, I think, and this is just a notch below it, but it's still extremely good stuff. I can't find a genuine flaw in this particular episode, but the next one just amps it up so much. You're like, oh my god. So yeah.
Yeah, I believe that we're all in accordance. Just the emotion that these shows have, these episodes have evoked, alone warrant a high score. But the fact that it's interwoven with these great action scenes, these great lines, but as soon as that hand went on the shoulder, we all knew exactly how it was going down, and we weren't disappointed.
They could have just faded to black, honestly. You would have known what happened. Like,
Murder.
you would know.
Exactly.
You have him wake up on the floor.
I gotta ask, honestly, when you guys saw that scene, how many of you in real life did exactly this?
Right.
Like in real life, looking at that episode, just did this, just like you done messed up, man. Like at that point, I can't say
it was more like.
See, I was just like my reaction was just sort of like,
yeah.
It's always the pretty ones. Always the pretty ones.
But if I had to,
he's not pretty though. Okay. Go ahead.
If I had to go ahead and drop my letter grade, it would certainly be an A if I didn't say that already. And well deserved. But we can touch on more of that a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and handle the recap for episode 5, titled Truth. And I'll try to move as fast as possible so we can go ahead and get into discussion. But we start off just like episode 1 with what we've been wanting to see, that crazy fight scene between John Walker, Bucky, and Falcon, which did not disappoint. And from there, after we catch our breath there, we get a little bit of a status update scene. Carly's in the win. John Walker's in custody, thanks to Bucky and Falcon. Bucky's going after Zemo. Sam takes the shield, and Torres takes the wings. From there, we see John Walker facing justice. He's in front of the council, and he gets stripped of everything. And he has no rank, he has no Captain America status, and he's dishonorably discharged. He angrily states his position, but it's technically the truth, but it's rebuffed quite swiftly. And he storms out of the room, has a conversation with his wife when they get approached by Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who prefers to be called Val, but only in the person's head who's addressing her, which is kind of weird. And she tells John that the best decision, other than marrying his wife and taking the serum, would be to answer her call when she does call him. So, and also we get a something that we've been wondering about the shield. We get the technical definition of who it belongs to from Val, saying that the shield is a legal gray area. From there, we see Carly and company, the Flag Smashers, visiting a shutdown displacement site, one that we've been familiar with, that has been the unofficial home. And at this point, Carly she's ready to escalate. She's tired of the death, and she wants to retaliate. So we get more of that later. We skip to Zemo in Sokovia at the memorial, and he's clearly not hiding. He's out in the open. He's paying his last respects because he knows the Doors are after him, and that's it. He's you can't run from them for long. But Bucky catches up first and plays a little bit of a mind game with Zemo before turning him over to the Doris. At this point, we get to that emotional scene where Sam visits Isaiah Bradley, and Isaiah lays out that brutal, gut-wrenching, emotional truth from his past. And, Sam takes it in, and we hear that Isaiah has a similar instance situation to Steve Rogers, in which he goes and he rescues several of his comrades, but instead of like Steve getting commended, he's arrested and tortured for 30 years essentially in incarceration. And then Sam goes home and he helps his sister rebuild the family boat with a little help from the community and from Bucky. We get from there a tense and emotional scene with John Walker and Lamar's family, and quickly we see Sharon hiring Batroc to help the Flag Smashers, and from there we get a closure talk, sort of the balance between the initial conversation that Bucky had with Sam, in episode 2, the balance that they're good, they're on good terms, they have a good talk, and so we see the summation of that, and they kind of go to separate ways from there. From there, we see another heritage scene between Sam and his sister. Sam is about to paint over the names of his parents on the ship, the boat. But he gets stopped, and they have a good conversation there. And which the memorable line from that scene: "What would be the point of all the pain and sacrifice if I wasn't willing to stand up and keep fighting?" That I found that very strong. Sam picks up the shield. We get that training montage backed by the Louisiana Hero song that's been the theme song of the series. And then finally, that's capped with Steve Rogers' signature aerial flip move, which I guess shows that Sam is ready. Lastly, we see the Flag Smashers teaming up with Batroc, and going to stop the vote from the Senate's GRC vote on the Patch Act, and we end the normal runtime of the series with Sam ready to join the fight and looking at the contents of a box that was delivered by Bucky from Wakanda. And then we get, of course, the final stinger, the end credit scene. We see John Walker working on a replica shield. So lots going on in that episode. So yeah, general impressions, as we've been hinting in our recap of the prior episode, there's a lot of emotions running through these episodes of the series, and this one is probably the most emotionally charged episode of the series so far. So let's start with Bliku. I know you've been itching to say a few things about this episode, so let's go and start there.
Well, first, I just want to check in on Mo. He's over there like hiding behind the shield and stuff. Like,
well, I mean, I figured actually if John Walker can have a fake shield, so can I. I can have a fake shield too.
Okay. Listen. There's a lot to unpack in that episode, and I have a twisted sense of humor. So when Cap Zero yelled out, "They killed Lemur," I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. I felt bad. I felt bad for Lemur, true enough, but the way he did it, it was like somebody took away his toy. It was like this child or something. I don't know. Let's see. Favorite scene was when he was like, "You don't want to do this," and Bucky was like, "Yes, we do." I'm like, yes, we all do. I felt like I empathized with them all in that moment. Let's see what else. I don't know. I have to think about it for a minute because there was a lot that was going on in that episode. I did appreciate the whole montage though, with with Falcon practicing with the shield,
Mhm.
just for them to give us that teaser at the end, and I was like, "How dare you! Y'all could at least show us the shield or something." Part of me feels that what was in that case, which I guess I want to pose that question to everybody.
Yeah, we'll
What
talk
do you
about
think was in that case? I think it was a new cap suit. And if it was, I can't wait to see it. And a cosplay can and will be happening.
that. So yeah, we have to stay on the opening scene. I intentionally just spoke a couple words in the recap, but
Okay.
certainly that scene is kind of like that's catharsis, right?
Yeah.
We've all been wanting that. Ashley was yes, she was exclaiming. It's almost like your favorite team scoring that
Right.
last second touchdown. We wanted to see that whooping for a while, and it
Yeah.
finally happened. And they didn't waste any time getting to it.
Yeah.
And it was justified. There was no gray area there. He needed to go down, and he was taken down for sure. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed seeing that scene for sure. I'm glad they started out with it. Standout moment for you, Mo. What you got?
So that scene actually went longer than I thought it would have, that initial scene. I really thought that super soldier serum or not, Bucky alone should have been able to just sort of been like, but that's me. I mean, I think actually him fighting, but I mean, I know a fight can change, the dynamic of a fight can change tremendously when it's 2-on-1 versus 1-on-1. But that wasn't the standout scene for me. The standout scene for me, and I think what I mentioned in our previous conversation, was actually his court martial. And I remember pausing that scene and having a discussion about the fact that although everybody hates on John Walker, and don't get me wrong, he should get his fair shake of hate. I think ultimately he brought up something that was extremely relevant and real, which is basically he is a creation of the United States, and the United States is basically turning around and being like, "Oh, you messed up. We're not taking any responsibility. We're going to go ahead and push you out there on your island on your own." And so his "I am Captain America," when I heard that, it had more layers for me. It had layers of every soldier that goes out is Captain America. Every single soldier that gets deployed is Captain America, because every one of them is an arm and an extension of what America's trying to accomplish. Good, bad, or indifferent. That is an extension of that. So I think that was a powerful scene. And again, this show impresses me with the layers in which they're hitting, where they're adding complexities to the antagonist, beyond being he's a jerk, he's an asshole, he's just he's unhinged or whatever the case is. He has these elements, and these are part of who he is. But it's again, I remember seeing a lot of posts after that for people who were prior military, who I feel watching this episode got a lot of that, and obviously what happened to Isaiah. Both those things together spoke to how we treat the military, and how the military is treated and discarded after we're done with whatever we need them to do.
Yeah, it's just highlighting that as a punctuation. The end of his discharge. Before the council, the most emotional thing the senator was on about was getting the shield returned.
Yeah.
That was more valuable to him than John Walker. He's just like, well, you know what? I scraped the bottom of my shoe of you.
Yep.
Scrape you off, and make sure you bring that shield back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it absolutely. He's just a weapon. He's just a tool, and it showed there. And so speaking of, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Expendable assets. Let's talk about the Isaiah Bradley scene, because that certainly that was hard to watch. I watched the episode a few times, and I guess part of watching that, because we all know it's no secret I get up and watch it at 3 a.m. And but it's part of it. I'm a little sleepy at that point, and when I'm getting into it. So, things stand out to me, but sometimes things don't necessarily hit me until, later on the rewatch. It really cuts deep. And, agreeing with Eddie, that's definitely one of the most powerful MCU scenes to date, for me as well. I mentioned it before. We see, I guess, really Sam is there with the shield. Is he there to present it to Isaiah and give it to him, to gift it to him? Is he ready? Is he, I don't see him bringing it there to kind of just show it to him and put it up and say, okay, look what I got now, and go home. I think he may have been wanting to actually give Isaiah the shield because he felt that he, through blood sacrifice, earned it. I would agree, but Isaiah is definitely disenfranchised with America to the point where he does not want to see a star or a bar near him. He just wants to stay in his house, water his plants, and live the rest of his life, by himself. The most powerful quote from that scene, pulling it up here because I don't remember it verbatim, but when he says, they will never let a black man be Captain America, and even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be. Ouch, right? Yeah. Because that's essentially what the show is about. But just as I think we find out, many people have different experiences in life in this country, and the variances in perspective aren't just color lines, right? Because we see in this clearly that Sam has his perspective and Isaiah has his perspective, but both have the black experiences, right? We see that even in this series. So who's right? Who's wrong? Where do you go? There are a lot of people that'll say, Isaiah is definitely justified and he's right. But then there are people that would say Sam is justified and he's right in the course of actions. I say you have to live your life. But let's go ahead and unpack that because, I'm going to start with you, Bliku, again, because, definitely we wanted to get talk about the social, not political, the social aspect of this show, because this is very much a social issue, which people are confusing social issues with political issues. This is life, right? So go ahead, Bliku. I'm sorry, I was getting a little long-winded, but
no, I'm just going to refrain from doing that because I don't think you can discuss one without the other, and you don't want to talk about that, so I don't know. Like, I can only speak what I know, and it's going to cross both of those paths. You can't bring up one and omit the other. You just can't.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm going to qualify the statement there. When I say not political, people are branding this as strictly a political issue. So I was correcting that. And yes, of course, there's politics involved. But when people say, I don't want to watch the show because, I prefer my politics separate from my entertainment. But I'm saying that this is life and it's not just politics. And that's why it's more so a social issue than a political issue, even though there's clearly, if it's a Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap, right?
It's mostly overlap. The dude is literally called Captain America.
Mhm.
Okay. That in itself is like rooted in the government. You know, like Mo even said earlier, he was more of a propaganda figure. So it was them trying to drive a specific narrative. And that in itself, if you're a fan of Captain America, you kind of have to know that part of it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
As far as, the episode, it does take on like racial issues and stuff that we experience in our day-to-day life, and I feel like it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and so they don't want to talk about it because it makes them reflect on themselves, and they don't want to do that. So I really don't know how far I can go as far as talking about this specific subject without stepping on toes, and that's why I'm like, just I'm gonna tap out because
I don't
I don't
think
think
you
you want me to say what I'm gonna say.
No, I think actually there's a way to have this conversation, and I will say this. I'll appreciate the fact that entertainment is actually bleeding out and talking about this, and entertainment has done this forever. Like this is not something new. Movies and music have reflected what's going on in the times since their inception, and to the point that you're just making right now, which is what we talked about even at I think the very first episode that we did on of this. Captain America is a political figure. It doesn't matter. He's a national figure. He if he was called Captain, Ulysses, that'd be a different story. But he's called Captain America, just like Captain Britain is. Anything that you associate with a country, you're associating with that country in itself. There may be some variances in that belief structure of that character, but that doesn't mean that you're disassociating one from the other. That's why I think there needs to be a clear delineation. And I know that I do this in every episode. I sincerely apologize. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. You can't actually take this character like Superman, who a lot of people sort of mix and match with Captain America in a way in their morals. You can't take somebody like Superman and somebody like Captain America. Superman is, as in his inception, not a American character. He's American in the sense that he was created by two Jewish immigrants. In that sense, yes, but his story, his origin, where he comes from, how he was written, he's an alien from another planet. He doesn't have any national association with anybody. Whereas with Captain America, yes, Captain America at his inception was a propaganda created character, unlike any other character that was created actually at the time. You could take a character like Namor, who precedes him by I think 1 or 2 years. Namor is not a national, he wasn't taking any sides. As a matter of fact, actually, yeah, he was taking a side. He was taking the side of the ocean. He was just like, forget all you guys up on top. So all that to be said, these kind of shows do bleed into this, and I think it's a good segue to talk and to have these conversations and to say, hey, this is some of the reality that some people have to live in. This is not entertainment for them. And maybe it's more palatable for you to receive this information as entertainment. Maybe it's a better vehicle for you to receive it if it's shiny and with Oscar nominated actors and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is that this is not a movie for a lot of people when it comes to the realities of it, the realities of post traumatic stress, after serving your country, of racial inequality, of political sort of posturing when it comes to certain things. All of these things are real world things that affect people. So I think there is a way to have that conversation without necessarily being like, oh, well, we're digging our heels and we're taking this particular side of it. No, I mean, it's, as a human being, you should be able to have a conversation and say, hey, these are things that are wrong. Morally, they're just wrong.
It's not about taking sides. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that stating facts and things that are just, as you even said earlier, a part of daily life, right?
No, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm
And
agreeing with you 100%. You're not taking a side. No, as a matter of fact, it's what maybe I'm saying it wrong, but I'm doubling down on what you're saying. I think people need to understand that you can have that conversation and not necessarily be like, oh, I'm taking this side. No, you're
Well,
not. You're presenting the reality.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. But reality for a lot of people doesn't include our reality because it's things that they can ignore because they don't personally affect them. And until it hits home for them, they kind of just don't give a crap. And now that it's kind of like creeping its way into what they consider entertainment, it's a problem.
Yeah.
But it's a bigger problem for people that are experiencing it in reality. And so, I mean, it is triggering. It makes me feel away because situations like what episode was that with the cops, they
Mhm.
left the house from seeing Isaiah Bradley, and automatically the cops stopped Sam, not Bucky. It's like, sir, is this a problem? Like, what are you talking about? They're friends and they're having an argument. So that kind of stuff actually happens for real, and it's not a Republican Democrat kind of thing. It's not this side upon or the other. That stuff actually happens. And that's so when I say that you can't not mix politics into it, it's because of things like that. And that is in its own right political. It directly involves the government. They are calling these things to light for a reason. And I guess I just, I'm going to get in my feelings if I start talking about it. This is like, I don't, it's hard to pull it back when it hits so close to home.
Right.
Darius, Jason, you want to weigh in? Darius?
Okay. There's some stuff like there's some other stuff for this. One, the Isaiah Bradley stuff. The two times that we see him, I'm always hurt. I mean, this show hurts in a good way, because I'm like, I mean, basically, like I said, the last time we saw him, when they introduced Isaiah Bradley in the comic books, basically, pretty much saying that people trying to replicate the super soldier serum was basically the equivalent of the Tuskegee experiment, and just right off, and a lot of people were pissed off that this comic book ever got released in the first place, and and the thing is that there's been politics in comics for the longest time. I mean, we had the Black Panther coming in the earliest discussion. We had Captain America live to go off and bust the crap out of Hitler.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, Darius. Can you pull your mic closer? We want to hear what you're saying clearly.
How is this?
So a little better.
How is this? I just didn't want to be the breathing old man thing. All right.
Fine. You can move it away when you're done speaking.
Okay. All right. But yeah, it just there have been politics in entertainment for a long time. Star Trek had the interracial kiss, people got mad. Uh, as I said, comics were written as a form of expressionism. It's been there. It'll never go away. Hopefully, we will have different stories to tell for different reasons. So you can always have this conversation. It'll never end. But it'll always be good way to bring up, excuse me, different points of human existence. John Walker feels betrayed now because he did what an American soldier, at least to me, really wants to go and serve to the best of his ability. I think that's something that they universally feel, and he thought he did. He truly believed he did. Right or wrong, he truly believed that he did. And the effects of that type of service versus what has happened to Isaiah Bradley, and he did the right thing and paid the most terrible price for it, a horrible price. He's had to be his nurse literally had to declare him dead so he could have a normal life, and he lost the woman he loved, and it's just there's so much that comics can portray about human existence and what loss and what being used can do to you. Bucky is now has been an assassin and is now a normal man trying to rectify things. And there's stuff that we haven't talked about in this episode. I love this episode where at one point Sam talks to Bucky and tells him, uh, "Okay, why he's actually trying to atone for what he did, and there's a different way for him to do it, and that he has to actually face the people that he wronged, and actually talk and really communicate with them, and through that he can try to start to heal a bit better." And you know, there's so much in this one episode that goes sort of up and down the entertainment and storytelling spectrum. The storytelling spectrum is the one thing that none of I no I can't picture anybody foreseeing the appearance of Contessa Valentina Alego de Fontaine. That's a mouthful in itself. And if you ever watched the Nick Fury movie with David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury, it was always fun seeing him say it. Contessa Valentina Alego de Fontaine.
Well, we're still
Anybody
talking.
got some sage? I'm scared. Okay, sorry.
I don't want to digress too much though from the Isaiah Bradley scene, because we're still kind of covering that. We're gonna move past it shortly, but just to I didn't give Jason the chance to weigh in on it before we move on from it as well. I'm sure he's got something to say on it as well.
My affinity for comics, namely Marvel comics, comes from childhood. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I discovered comics and X-Men more specifically, and that was my friend. So to see these stories being told on the big screen, plus I'm a movie fan, is just a lot for me. There's only been a handful of times in the MCU where I've been like moved to tears, whether it been like a straight out boo-hoo or a single tear. The Isaiah Bradley scene was definitely one, and I'll attribute it to it being 7 o'clock in the morning when I woke up to watch it before work. Um, it hit hard, and it was a lot. I love storytelling, and I love how in this show specifically they are painting this picture to people that don't want to see it of how America treats minorities, most specifically people of black people, black men. No offense to black women, but mostly we're seeing that with Sam's character being shown in this show. Um, from him being pulled over by the cops and them asking what's the problem before they recognized that he was an Avenger, to showing him in the bank and he couldn't even get a loan, being as how he saved the world at least twice, or being a part of the efforts to help save the world at least twice. But him bringing the shield to Isaiah, and obviously he was there to present him the shield because he felt like he deserved it. And Isaiah turning him down and telling him why or what he went through. He was the original Captain America. He beat Bucky. He did exactly what Steve did and went against orders and rescued some POWs that the government was just going to let die. And for that, he was thrown in jail for 30 years and experimented on. And only because a nurse presumed him dead, or pronounced him dead, he was able to go hide out in, I believe they're in Philadelphia. I'm not sure specifically where they are.
I think they're at Maryland.
Huh?
Baltimore.
They're hiding out. He's hiding out. Just trying to live a normal life away from everything. Just to see that, and obviously it's fiction, but just as it's no different than how they treat soldiers or how they treat black people in America. Discarded, thrown to the side, killed, tortured, and I love how Marvel is taking these things and putting them in their shows. It's arguable that Marvel right now, the MCU as well as Star Wars, is the most popular brand of entertainment currently out. So even if people are upset about politics or social things happening in sports or in their music, they can turn off the sports as much as they love it. They can turn off the music as much as they love it, or skip to another song and watch a different game. Marvel is in your face everywhere you go. There's Marvel logos, Marvel TV shows, Marvel movies, everywhere. So even the most diehard Marvel fans or casual goers are watching these things, and they have to see them, and they have to, whether they choose to acknowledge them or not, it's happening. So for this scene, and for it to be such a small scene, and to come so late in the series, it just was beautifully written. The acting was amazing, and I don't think, to your point before, Leonard, I don't think either Sam or Isaiah are wrong. They're both two different sides of a coin who dealt with different things in America, and they both want to do what's right. And I think, Sam is just more so forward thinking. Like, I have an opportunity to try to kind of change how America treats black men. And Isaiah is from a time where he's just, I ain't gonna say bitter, because he has every right to be, but he's angry, he's upset, he has no desire to fool with America or anything they got going on. It's just like, the people that are on social media or go out and march and protest X, Y, and Z, they want to change America for the better, versus the people that are just like, I'm just tired of fighting. I've done everything that I can do. America ain't never going to change. I'm good. Neither side is wrong. It's just two different sides of a coin. They both want change. Just some people are tired of being the guinea pig for it, and some people think that there's a possibility it can change.
Something that's striking about the whole scenario is that we remember that this series, this is not this is something that wrapped filming, for the most part early last year, right? And we see a couple of things here. Within this episode, where you see Bucky say, "Hey, we're sorry. There's no way that or we didn't really consider the implications of giving a black man the shield." We see the situation with Isaiah where the colors don't matter, and the situation in which having that uniform doesn't really matter. Being Captain America it doesn't really matter. We see the situation that happened with the soldier, not too long ago, a few days ago, in which he was pepper sprayed and tasered, in uniform, in a well-lit area for having what was the pullover offense was improper display of license plate. It's To me, it's interesting that between that and the fact that we have a scene with app-driven storming of a federal grounds for the sake of stopping a vote, which hadn't happened yet when this show was filmed. The fact that you can so easily portray something that's going on in reality, it's that predictable that you write a show and see stuff come true, is very telling about what's going on in our society. This show evokes that so much. And so yes, I'm definitely glad that this is a prevalent part of this show, and it's causing these conversations to happen. Yes, as I believe Eddie put in the chat earlier, there are a lot of people out there that want to continue to ignore and have their own version mentally of the truth, and will totally disregard everything that's being put forth with these issues in the show. But I'm thankful for the people who are out there being receptive and willing to have these conversations. As a result, as much as I'm thankful for the MCU, for Marvel Studios, for putting this content in the show. It's good that we can have this conversation and maybe try to move forward, in baby steps if we can. That's all I have to say about that for now.
Amen.
But okay, so let's
Well,
let's
actually, if you don't mind, just really quick before there's one particular thing, and this is we're gonna go ahead and actually climb down the serious stairs and come back down to Fantasyland a little bit here.
right.
We have not addressed the role of a little Sharon Carter in this whole thing, and basically how she is what game she's playing. She basically has, for lack of a better way of putting it, put a hit on Sam. She basically is paying Batroc to go ahead and help Carly, and Batroc was like, I don't care about anything else. I just want to go ahead and kill the Falcon. And she's just like, okay, cool.
I think she. Oh, go ahead.
No, I've spoken a lot, so you're fine.
I think she is playing. A lot of people are thinking that she's the power broker, and you know how Marvel just likes to troll us. And oh yeah, think what you want to think, and we're gonna switch it on you at the last second. I think she's just doing something in the footsteps, so to speak, of Nick Fury. Just like how he called Batroc to pirate the Lemurian Star, just so he could get information, just so he can get close to X, Y, and Z. I think she's. I don't think she's a power broker. I could be wrong, but I think she's just playing Batroc to get to her own end game, whatever her end game is, because she currently is not welcome in the United States because of the events of Civil War. So I think because she's using whatever influence she has to try to help, because she knows that the government wants the Flag Smashers done with, and clearly John is not able to get it done. And I don't know so much if they so much believe that Sam and Bucky, or if they even, I know they're aware that Sam and Bucky are out there, but I don't know how much they think they're going to be able to get done because they don't believe in them as top tier heroes. But if Sharon can do whatever she can do to try to get everyone to the same place at the same time, orchestrate that, then that'll be her ticket back in the U.S. I think she's just playing her hand.
Yeah, I mean, in going back to a statement I made earlier about characters and their transitions, I do believe I left Sharon Carter out, and she's just excuse me, playing the cards that she's dealt, and that's a character that when we're first introduced to her, she's under deep cover right next door to Steve Rogers, and she's following orders, and she definitely perfect agent, right? But then she begins that transition, and she takes Steve's side and becomes under the wrong end of the government, and then now she's what can she do? She's a fugitive, so she's excuse me. She's playing a role. She's playing a part that she's given to play, and she's surviving. And we'll see what the true motivations are and the results of her actions at a later point, of course. But she's not being rigid. She's being fluid and doing what she needs to do to survive.
Yeah, and I'll agree with Cap. I don't think she's the power broker. I think that's a red herring. I think actually having Valentina in, I mean, there's a possibility. Like I feel like Valentina could more fill that role better than Sharon can. And not to say that Sharon can't do it. I think to your point, Leonard, I think she is. She's playing the game to win herself. Now, whether or not that means it's some ways a means to get back to the States, I don't know, because I feel like maybe actually now she's become so comfortable in the role that she's in. Because again, what is she doing now? She's basically living large. She's not beholden to any government or to anybody telling her what to do. Yes, are things actually a little bit more dicey for her, being in Madripoor? Absolutely. But ultimately, she's still actually in control of whatever actually she wants to do. So she can very easily, take whatever leverages she can to put herself actually in a better position. So I do agree. I do think actually it's an interesting point, Leonard, that this show has shown so many transitions, including in characters like that and Zemo as well. Like Zemo transitioning him from where he was to where he is right now. I'm interested to see, especially with how the show is going, because unlike WandaVision, where WandaVision, at least when they reached out to Feige, there wasn't really a plan for a season two. It was just sort of like, hey, we're going to do this show, and then it's going to jump into Doctor Strange. This show at least has a plan for, hey, we're going to do season two. So introducing someone like Valentina, which at first I was just sort of like, what? Why are they? It's episode 5. Like, what are they trying to do? But then I thought about it and I'm like, well, yeah, this is a great sort of, we're going to put this character in play now. And maybe this will be a character that will be, have a bigger presence, especially with hiring a name actress like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. You obviously are hiring them not to just do a 2-minute, cameo and stuff like that. Not to say that they can't do that. They did that obviously with Matt Damon, but that was more a ha-ha, thing. Whereas this, I think they're establishing her as a character, and a character that's very, much in the trenches of Captain America and Shield storytelling.
Eddie puts forth that she's Madam Hydra.
She is. She was.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, I had to chuckle at the affinity for barons and baronesses to purple in their attire, because it's one of the first things I noticed, on her purple attire. But that's just a little random thought there. So, I guess if I wanted to, because we're about to wrap up here. There's a lot of talks of symbols within this show, and obviously the shield is the most powerful, because it's we've been talking about it from the beginning. We start out with it, and one of the things that I wanted to mention very earlier in our coverage of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as a personal thing, Sam, when we see him preparing to hand over the shield to the Smithsonian, he's getting ready and he's got the shield on his bed. There's when we talk about symbology and heritage in the series, we see the family boat, we see the shield, we see quite a few things. But my mom is a big quilter, and if you notice on Sam's bed, is he's got a quilt. That's his comforter. He's got a quilt there, and that's another symbol of of heritage that I kind of picked up on, and they keep bringing it back to that, and I will say that my mom picked that up. It's an inherited sort of skill, and that patchwork tells a story, and it's subtle, but I appreciate them for adding that in, and that's a very relatable thing. That's something, even though I could talk at my mom about all of the stuff that's going on, but as soon as I bring up, hey Sam, look at that quilt on Sam's bed, that will bring out a lot of emotion, a lot of memory, and so I appreciate that symbol in there as well. So that's kind of a little bit of another, let's just say, random thought or tidbit that I had that I appreciate about this show as well.
I had a random tidbit jumping off of what Mo said earlier, climbing down that ladder. Can Bucky fight? I mean, we know he can beat up normal people, but if you think about the timeline of events, Bucky has got his ass handed to him by anyone that is not a human being. Let's see. Isaiah Bradley kicked his ass in 51, took his arm, right? When they created in Civil War, they had the flashback and they created the other super soldiers, and Bucky was fighting one-on-one, that guy beat his ass too. Bucky can't beat Cap. We know that. Bucky has lost to Black Panther with and without his suit. T'Challa beat him when Bucky went crazy at the UN, when they were holding him. He beat him without his suit. Then he lost to the Dora Milaje because he jumped in that fight and he got beat up and she took his arm off. We didn't mention that Ayo deprogramming his arm. And then in this episode here, I didn't think that John Walker was going to be able to whoop on the both of them the way that he did. That fight went on way longer than I thought it was. I knew John Walker was the pinnacle of, soldier, but even with the serum, he still worked on them pretty hard. And
And
I feel like if Sam wasn't there, and Sam barely made, he made an impact, but I think Bucky would have got his ass whooped then too. And then even in the beginning of the episode, the Flag Smashers, not the episode, but the series, the Flag Smashers, Carly beat up on Bucky a little bit too. So I'm like, okay, Bucky fight? Like, if he's fighting a normal human being, yeah, sure. Even a gang human being, sure. But anybody else so far that we've seen or heard stories about, Bucky be getting his ass whooped.
Well, I think actually, if you take it to answer that question, I think, and this is my thought, just logically, Bucky was a trained assassin. So as an assassin, I think his job is to go in, kill, and leave. Like his job is not to stay for a long fight. His job. So there's different skill sets for stuff like that. So in his case, if your job is to just come in, take somebody out and leave, your job is not to go ahead and actually engage with multiple. Like you could probably do some light fighting, but not necessarily like a long-term, hey, I can kick everybody's ass kind of thing. However, I'll agree, and I said that too. That fight at the beginning of this episode, honestly, when I saw that John, I was just like, when they were like, they're going to take the shield from him, I figured it was just going to be like, give me the shield. No, man, I want to give you the shield. Give me that shield.
All right, so
they would have walked away, and that would have been the end of the conversation. Not this thing where wings get ripped off and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? And I get that John maybe is in a berserker, and maybe actually there's a different dynamic in fighting two people versus one. But still, come on. That should have been that fight should have been 2 minutes at most.
So I'm gonna say and I looked and that fight was about 9 minutes, and right, but I'm gonna say this for one, that particular fight, you have one party that's fighting to kill, and you have another one that's fighting to neutralize. There are different approaches to that, but I'm gonna say this as far as Bucky's concerned directly, okay. So Bucky, he's not like Cap, who was frozen for a large part of his life. Bucky's just been around, right? So Bucky's real old, right? But also, Zola's serum, we don't know how much enhanced it made him versus Steve. Of course, he's enhanced, but by what level? Even versus the perfected version of Erskine's through Nagel, Dr. Nagel. So we don't know what level that is as far as sheer power. But he's old. He's been around for a minute, and he's he's not fighting with that same direct edge as the Winter Soldier. He's reserved. He's got a different mentality as well.
But so. T'Challa was trying to kill him both times they fought, and he got whooped both times. If you're not fighting for survival, what else? Even Spider-Man caught Bucky's metal arm. Like, bro,
well, that's Spider-Man. Well, that's different.
But it's a child Spider-Man with no world experience whatsoever. Caught his arm. Like, hey, here you got a better arm.
I think actually Bucky has enhanced strength and speed because obviously in that first episode, he basically almost ran down that truck. He almost ran that truck down when it left. So he has enhanced speed. So again, I get that. I'm sorry. That fight shouldn't have lasted that long. There's nobody that can convince me otherwise. The fight lasted way too long. And honestly, and again, this is coming from, and again, and let's talk skill. The Dora is a very skilled group of fighters. Obviously, there's no question about that. He got himself slapped around prior to Super Soldier enhancement, meaning actually that if you talk about skill level, at least he couldn't even hold his own in that fight. So having then fought these two guys, Bucky being actually a trained assassin, so having some proficiency at least to some degree with some fighting skill, and Sam, the math still doesn't make like I don't know. I feel like that scene should have gone with him running and them chasing after him for the shield. That's the way that scene should have gone down. Not the fight that where wings get ripped off, like like he's ordering from Wingstop or something. No, none of that.
All right. So I'm looking at time. We're about to wrap up here, but I want to circle back to a question that was posed earlier in the stream by Bliku. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give our review of the episode. But before we give the review, each person has to say what they think was in the box. All right. So
All right.
let's go ahead and start with Bliku.
I think it's a new cap suit. They probably redesigned it because out there in Wakanda, they're styling and profiling. So I think it's going to be fly. My score for it, I would give it an A+ because I think it was a great episode. It had highs, it had lows, it had layers, it had action, had a little comedy in there. Bucky trying to get his Mac on. So
Right.
Sam shutting it down. So yeah, I'm going to give it an A+.
All right, Mo.
I would agree. I think it's actually a new Falcon Cap hybrid suit. Probably something similar to the comic books, because at least Marvel's track record so far has been, and it's obviously speaking on two shows, honestly, WandaVision and this, is that they wait to the last episode to reveal their final form. They're like, this is their final form. This is Wanda's final form, because they do that, and then actually, you get all of these companies overseas that have to make a mad dash to try to build these to sell these as quickly as possible. So I think that's what it's a new hybrid suit, because any suit actually like that, and especially in a suitcase that big, it's got to have more than just, hey, it's just a folded suit. I think obviously it's a hybrid suit that allows him to do maybe a little bit more. So he can falcon and throw shields at the same time. He can throw shields from the air and catch them in the air. And then my review is an A+. This actually, like I said, this episode was, spoke so much. I think actually it works really well with the last episode in some of the themes and in some of the things that sort of the handoff was. Like I said, that conversation with Carly, and the other Flag Smasher, and talking about the type of new Captain America that they needed, and now the end of this episode where we may get a new Captain America, the Captain America that this modern world needs, or this new modern America needs, and then also the conversation that was had with Walker and Lemar. That conversation leading into the court martial here, where it was about, where you can see John's conscience. As much, like I said, again, I'm not going to argue that he is an antagonist. He is an asshole, but like I said, he was built and he was created, for lack of a better way of putting it, by the people in power, and the people in power, unfortunately, are not spotless.
All right, Darius.
This is an A+ episode.
Oh, hey, first, what's in the box? What's in the
box?
Oh,
What's in the box?
The comic book, Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, and the outfit, the Falcon Captain America hybrid outfit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Bucky had brought to him. I love the episode on so many levels. There's this one bit where you see the kids playing with Captain America's shield, and just hit home how this thing is going to play out, possibly. I love different parts. Seeing Atlanta represented, because you see the last scene is Carly and the Flag Smasher sitting in the middle of Piedmont Park looking at Atlanta. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Just can't miss that. But I absolutely loved everything about it. And Bucky is apparently a black chick magnet because Shuri, Io, and what's her name? Anyway,
Sarah,
all no, Sam's sister,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah, are all looking at him funny. I'm like, dang man, you got it like that. Way to go, bro. Sam's not having it, of course. Um, but yeah, you see all these little things, and there is one interesting parallel that's been hitting my brain. The Stinger, where John Walker is building his own Captain America shield. All I can think of is Tony Stark building his own armor,
Mhm.
and like the hammer, hammering out, breaking it up, and it's like it's going to be basically an antagonist version of that, with his metal embedded in it and everything. There's a lot of emotion in him and all the characters combined. There's a lot that's going to be happening in that final episode. I also do not believe that Sharon is the power broker in any means. I also don't think, however, she's necessarily trying to kill Sam.
Okay.
That's about peace. That's kind of an incidental piece. So yeah, we're going to see U.S. Agent versus Captain America in this final episode. It's going to be awesome. Look forward to it.
All right. Now, Jason.
I think in the box is obviously vibranium wings as well as a new capsule, like Riku said. Uh, Wakanda never does anything boring, so I just think it's going to be dope. I hope it's not necessarily the leaks that we got a couple months ago or even last year showing Sam in that red, white, and blue. I mean, it was cool, but I'm hoping that like when we saw like Scarlet Witch's costume, it was like, yo, this is dope. I'm hoping something along the lines of that. This episode was an A+ for me, just like the episode 8 of WandaVision. I feel like the episode before the series finale is the best episode. I love episode 8 of WandaVision, and I love this episode completely. We got action, we got story, we got heart, we got layers, we got everything in this episode. It was just a big build to now. They'll be in New York for the final episode where everything goes down in the Marvel Universe, whether it's comic or MCU. So it just gives you the thought process of the Flash matches are going to be there, Batrock's going to be there, Bucky and Sam are going to be there. Who else is going to be U.S. agents going to sorry, John Walker's going to be there, and then whoever else is in New York at this time period because this takes place roughly 6 months after Endgame. What is the world going to be like in New York? What's going to be happening in New York? Who else is going to be there? Well, we know Spider-Man's not going to pop up. We know Doctor Strange is not going to pop up. But is Rhodey going to be there? Is Sharon going to be there? Is Nick Fury going to pop up? Who else is going to be in New York at this finale?
I have the answer for that actually. I changed my answer. I know what's in the suitcase. It's Mephisto. Mephisto's in the phone case.
All right. So as far as what's in the box, I agree with pretty much everybody. I believe it is the new and improved Captain America suit. With the enhancements that'll give Sam an edge in battle. And I definitely give this an A+. This is to me, because of everything presented, the best episode. It brings a lot out of the viewer. But I certainly agree. This episode was great, and they've already started tying up a few things that we were wondering about Zemo, and we got that closure conversation between Sam and Bucky. So it's polishing and sanding and finishing the series, and so I appreciate it. So yeah, I guess on that note, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up for today. Once again, thank you for everyone who's tuning in now and engaging, and thank you for all of you guys that are going to be checking out the Beam stream in the future. So with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and we will see you guys next week on Saturday, 1 week to review and cover the finale of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So see you guys very soon.
When Captain America throws his smartest